Goals restrict happiness. That's at least a quote from James Clear, who's the author of Atomic Habits. And it sounds controversial, but he's absolutely right. In this video we're going to be talking about why systems are a far more powerful approach than goals, and how you can build ones that create habits that actually stick. Hi, my name is Marius and I help high performers create systems to increase their personal and professional focus, productivity and resilience. And we're getting started with why goals are kind of flawed. There are three very strong arguments when it goes in that direction. First one is that we need to differentiate in between output goals and input goals. Basically, we're saying to look at controllable data and uncontrollable data. But let me quickly dissect that and give you a very clear example. So imagine you have the goal to become a millionaire at the age of 35. Ambitious goal. Very impressive if you actually hit it. But it's no more than just a dream. Alright, you have a deadline. Great. So you kind of fulfilled it as it being a goal. Wonderful. But what are the action steps here? What is your plan to become a millionaire at the age of 35? And that is overall the problem when it comes to goal setting. We just look at the result, at output goals, and not at what we have to put in to achieve this very ambitious goal. We can, for example, view money just as a side product of actions that we take that guarantee or at least increase the chance of us reaching that goal. So if you, in other words, focus on output goals and uncontrollable data, then you are not in control. I mean, maybe a little, but you're not near close to being 100% in control. Now there's another quote by James Clear that goes like, if you want better results, then forget about goals and focus on your systems instead. Because systems now are kind of a list of actions, of habits or steps before you create an actual habit that you take. So it's input. You could ask yourself the question, for example, what does it take to reach that certain output goal? What kind of person do I need to become? What kind of actions did other people take that led them to that desired result? So systems get you there. They make your life easier and they're kind of also a guideline itself. I just want to quickly point out that I mentioned that you're getting close to 100% because they're always uncontrollable pieces of data because you need to rely on other people. Like for example, your parents, your partner, your colleagues, employees. At one point or another, you give up responsibility and need to trust another person to perform in your interests. But okay, let's move on from this point now and figure out why goals are still not the best. And that would be by going through the thought experiment of us actually achieving a goal. You right now are a millionaire. Let's just go through it. You're at your current age and you've got all the money that you could possibly desire. Congratulations. What now? You've done it? Alright, great. Congratulations. Are you going to buy everything that you wanted? Go ahead and do so. Got the best health insurance? Got everything the best? Wonderful. What's next? What gives you life purpose? And that is not just the idea behind becoming a millionaire and why it's such a flawed goal, but overall, when it comes to goal setting, when we start something new, we're always quite excited, we're motivated, we want to get to it and take action. Eventually, habits are going to take care of us and we reach goals. But if we just focus on the goal itself, we restrict our happiness and then fall into something that's called post-goal depression. At least that's what I call it. You ask yourself, what am I doing with my life now? You need to figure yourself out. With systems then, on the other hand, kind of just keep on doing what you have done. So you can avoid that kind of depression by having a system instead of goals. Okay, and third point why goals are kind of flawed is because you forget to look at the journey, at the beautiful scenery around you, at the environment. And I mean that literally. Imagine your goal is to hike to that mountaintop and you just see that mountaintop in front of you. Then you ignore the valleys, the rivers, the trees, the exhaustion and the journey itself. You ignore the experience itself, the ups and downs. And that all sounds beautiful now and you're missing out on a lot. You're not just missing out on experience, you're missing out on data. As soon as you have data, as soon as you have achieved something and know how you've achieved it, you can recreate it. If you go up on that mountaintop, but you've got a rash from your backpack, stubborn people would be thinking, alright, I'll just go on to the next mountaintop with the same backpack. Well, how about you evaluate that situation, just one example out of many, and see, hey, this backpack might not be the best for me. Next time I choose a different one. But okay, we want to create systems. Ones that stick, ones that are powerful, form habits, and all of that, of course, in just 7 days. I've already mentioned it, data is vital. I can't put it in different words. They are so super goddamn important. If you don't know where you're at, then you don't know what your unfair advantage is. Then you don't know in which direction to go to, what you need to improve, what you have done well. So on the first day, we just look at our 24-hour period and evaluate and see, okay, this is what we've done throughout it. What have we done well? What could be improved? And so on. I call it taking stock. On the second day now, we're setting ourselves a goal. Once again, this is going to be our direction, our compass kind of, our reason to move in a direction, which would be done by creating a perfect schedule. On day 3 now, we finally are actually creating a system. And we do so by taking our 2 sheets of paper next to one another and comparing them with one another. And see, okay, well, here on day 0 in my 24-hour period where I'm at right now, I could do this and that, could change these actions to then achieve the result of my desired future, of my desired perfect schedule. So on day 3, we kind of build a bridge in between where we're at and where we want to go to. But life is too complicated than that, isn't it? Things are still getting in the way, and those things I call distractions. It can be simple as our phones. They can be the environment, the people that we're with, noise from construction outside. Gosh, distractions can be anywhere and everything. So it's good to know about them. Write a short list maybe of like potential distractions that you could come across that restrict you from working and performing at your best ability. And then an actionable plan of what you can do to eradicate, to get rid of that distraction. Okay. Yeah, that's what we can do, so at least it seems. On day 5 now, we're going to move further than that. We're looking at our environment, and we're taking responsibility for that. There's a beautiful quote that I would like to introduce this short day. It's a quote by Mark Manson, best-selling author of The Subtle Art of Not Giving Enough. A lot of people hesitate to take responsibility for their problems because they believe to be responsible for your problems is also to be at fault of your problems. Of course, that's wrong. Just because you have a problem doesn't mean that you are the reason for that problem to exist. Clear example would be if you're distracted by people. Then you can't just say, hey everyone, leave me alone once and for all. But you could communicate your needs. You could communicate, hey, in this short period, in these 2 hours, please just don't confront me for a second. I need some time for myself. I need to figure myself out. I want to get some work done. Do that in a way that they understand it as well. Don't just shout. If there is a messy desk, a messy office, a messy kitchen, whatever it is, and you are not at fault of that, someone else has played their rubbish in your space, then communicate that you want a cleaner space and for them not to do so. But eventually you've got to clean it up. You can take action. You can change something about that, even though you were not the fault of the problem that you have. And if you are distracted by yourself, that could be by your action or inaction, then remind yourself that the behavior that you have might also not be your fault. It could be a response from education, from parenting, and so much more. But now we can take responsibility and do something about that. Okay, but it's not just the environment that restricts us. It's also ourselves. I first heard something quite remarkable from Jim Rohn. That would be the attitude diseases. There would be doubts, indecision, indifference, overcaution, worry, and neglecting yourself or your own work. If you're suffering from one of those, you will ultimately hold you back. In other words, it's good to have a system in place in case you come across that form of feeling and to do something about that. And that we do on day 6. On day 7 now, finally we can bring everything together. Now we know where we're at, where we want to go to, how to get there. We can limit distractions, take responsibility, and find restrictions within ourselves. Here's one more little advice that I can give you along the way. And that would be, if you battle something, if you want to improve yourself, target one thing at a time. Otherwise you get overwhelmed immediately. And that being said, check out the link in the video description because I'm bringing out a remarkable and super cool tool for you to unlock your focus, structure and momentum in just 7 days by creating microsystems. It's called the System Sprint. That being said, see you all next week. Goodbye.